Stop Consulting You. Special thank you to the TDs, James O'Connor, Matthew McGrath, Michael Healy-Ray and Pat Buckley. And there could be other offices represented here as well, just to say, if maybe you might mention here. Thank you very much for coming along. So obviously this is a very, very important meeting, and I want to really thank the campaign for coming up to Dublin today with the petitions that they have. And this is a campaign that is very much a grassroots, people-powered campaign focused on the need to be able to simply protect life and property in Midleton. And this is an issue going on for years, and it needs to be resolved ASAP. And I think this campaign is bringing the necessary attention and pressure on the government to make that happen. So what I would like, they can give their presentation, we'll ask them the questions, but we as the elected representatives then also have a responsibility to put as much pressure as possible on the government to make sure that the necessary works happen ASAP. So without further ado, I'd ask you to put your hands together for the first speaker, Mona Stromsoe. Thank you.
I'll try to shorten it even a little bit more than it was, because we're running a little bit late, I know that. So my name is Mona Stromsoe. I am the chairperson of the Midleton and East Cork Flood Protection Group. Thank you for meeting us today. We're here to ask for your help and support to get urgent interim flood protection measures for all of East Cork, and to present you with the actual stories of what happened on the day of the 18th of October. Our community has rallied, and a petition of nearly 15,000 signatures have been gathered, and that's a testament to our concerns. On the 18th of October 2023, the heart was ripped out of our community by Storm Babette. Midleton, Castlemartyr, Mogeely, Killa, Whitegate, Carrigtwohill, Dungoran, to name just a few, endured the devastating consequences of the storm. Homes and businesses, families, friends, children and adults were shattered by the unforgiving force of nature. Not just water, but wastewater and sewerage went into properties. We stand here today, 4 months later, still grappling with the aftermath. The gravity of the situation cannot be overstated. It's a national emergency demanding immediate action. The potential for tragedy still exists. There was a real danger that there would be loss of life on that day. If that flood had happened at night, there would most certainly have been lives lost, not a life, lives lost. We expected our politicians and local representatives to serve and assist their local communities, not to ignore us when we needed their help and guidance, to make our catchment areas safe for our children and grandchildren. Lives were nearly lost, except for the rapid reaction of family and friends. The trauma and mental health impacts are huge. Adults and children are suffering from PTSD, and we need mental health supports for our community. Compounding this crisis is the slow progress in rebuilding lives. 4 months on, some residents are still not back in their homes, families are still separated, and many people had no choice but to stay in their homes and live in terrible conditions. Some businesses are not yet open, and others will never reopen. The application process for the Humanitarian Aid Fund is full of red tape and difficult to navigate. This should not be the case in a time of emergency, and it really needs to be addressed. It's not suitable for purpose. People are not getting paid what they need to repair their homes. Some that were lucky enough to have insurance are still waiting on payments. Timelines proposed for Midleton flood defences are not acceptable, and the flood defence system that is proposed is for Midleton, not for the East Cork area. A sense of urgency is lacking, and at a meeting in the Midleton Park Hotel back in November with Cork County Council, the OPW and ARA, we were told it could be 9 to 10 years before this flood defence system is in place. It's just not acceptable. Creative minds can overcome many of the difficulties which have been used as excuses. There are a lot of interim measures that can be put in place before the dream of the flood defence system. An early warning system is not just necessary but overdue. The European Union issued a directive on the 11th of December 2018 mandating that all its member states implement public warning systems by the 21st of June 2022. Ireland has not implemented this. We need it. It should be on its mobile phones, and it should pick it up from people who are visiting as well as locals without you having to register. Our community is passionate about finding solutions for interim flood protection measures, and we believe that your support is crucial in this. What do we need to make these happen? The time for action is now. We need to rebuild our homes and safeguard the future of our community. I'm going to hand you over now to Caroline for
My name is Caroline Leahy, and I live in Tirclune in Middleton, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come and meet with us today and hear our stories. Around 11:30 a.m. on the 18th of October, my partner rang me to tell me that we were flooding, and in my naivety I suggested he grab towels and duvets to mop it up, but the water had risen to 3 foot and it was within 15 minutes. We had no warning, no preparation, no time whatsoever to think about what we needed to save. On the approach to my house by foot, I realised very quickly that the current of the water flowing was at such a rapid pace, there was no way I could have made it home without being pulled into the current. To put this in context, I watched a car float out of the driveway from the house behind me and float past me until finally coming to a stop by some trees outside my house. I stood and waited at that turn for maybe 30 to 45 minutes, waiting for my partner to leave the house. The 8-foot boundary wall opposite our house collapsed with the pressure of the water. That 30 minutes waiting for Aidan to get out with our dog and as much of our life's possessions as he could fit in a backpack was hands down the longest 30 minutes of my life. I stood there in freezing water up to my waist and just prayed that he would get out in one piece. I knew that one slip of his foot or a raised manhole and he was dead. He did make it out, but because of sheer luck, we had no help from emergency services, no help from officials. And this is an image I think about often. I've had nightmares at this moment. I've replayed it, the what ifs, so many times, and this wasn't just our house, but our whole estate. And ours was just one estate in East Cork. This image was repeated across the whole of East Cork, where ultimately 500 homes were flooded. That is at least 1,500 people whose lives were put at risk that day and continue to be put at risk until such time as defences are put in place in our towns. You see, to some people a house may be just a roof over your head, somewhere to keep you warm and dry. But to us, this was our home. We'd worked since we were 15 years of age for everything we had. We were never given a handout of any description, not from family, not from friends, and not from the state. My partner worked 2 jobs when we were saving for our deposit. We sacrificed so many things to save for our house. We missed family events, holidays, we delayed wedding plans, we delayed starting a family, because the smart thing to do was to have a roof over our heads. And we were so proud of it. It may be just a 3-bed semi to most people, but it was our safe place. It was where we went after a tough day to close the door on our problems and be together. It was where we decorated our Christmas tree and where we blew out our birthday candles. It was where we celebrated our wins and grieved for our losses. And all that was taken from us in 15 minutes with absolutely no warning. We worked to make those 4 walls a home, and every bit of work that needed to be done, we did ourselves together. The stuff we lost in the flood is just stuff, which is what I tell myself regularly when I'm trying to stay positive. No one was hurt and no one was killed. But the reality is it was our stuff. It was our photo albums with memories from a 20-year relationship, long before the days of backing up photographs on a hard drive. They were our mementos from years of travel, our handmade gifts from parents and family and friends that were completely irreplaceable, and we did also lose a car. But the most devastating thing we lost was our safe place, our security, our home, and our happiness in that home. Despite being lucky enough to have insurance this time, our home is still a building site 4 months on. It is hard to see how we can ever put that love back into it again, or hard to see how we can ever sit back and be proud of what we own again. If there was an early warning system in place, we would have at least had the opportunity to prepare ourselves to move the most important things, to save the parts of our life that a check cannot replace, and to have evacuated our homes safely. We may have had a chance to get sandbags to slow the flow. We may have had the chance to help our friends and neighbours. An early warning system does work, and it's in place in many other European countries. Why are we being left behind? How much do you think you could save in 15 minutes with water rushing into your home? How safe would you feel with the force of this water outside your house? And where does an average income household find €100,000 for repairs the next time this happens without insurance cover? The people of East Cork need help and we need it urgently. This is an emergency situation for us. We simply cannot endure another flood. The next time there's a strong likelihood we won't all make it out alive. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for taking the time to listen to our concerns today. My name is Vivienne Jeffers, and I've come today from Glanfia, Mogeely, County Cork, where we were flooded by rainwater on the 18th of October 2023. The images you're seeing are my house that I had to cut away. You can just make out that's me putting my children onto the back of a tractor trailer. We were threatened shortly after on 2 more occasions, the 27th of December and again on the 9th of February, when there was no weather warnings whatsoever. It was just regular Irish rain. On the 18th of October, slurry off the fields was washed in the front and back doors of 30 houses with astonishing speed. As they are timber-framed houses, the water gushed into the foundations through the ground level vents and pushed floorboards and washing machines out of the way with sheer force. My children, aged 9 and 7, were homesick with me and got trapped in the house due to the floorboards popping and blocking our escape. The rain didn't stop and the water kept rising. By 2 p.m, it was painfully clear that we were alone. My husband made it home shortly after, and between us we evacuated our children out the sitting room window and carried them out on our backs through waist-high filth to a waiting tractor. We slept in a van the first 3 nights while we worked cutting away everything, including the walls. We were head to toe in mud for the following few weeks and completely devastated. We had no flood cover and were so grateful to hear of the humanitarian fund being offered by the government. While we were on our knees in the midst of rubble and in complete shock, we were asked to prove that we were flooded, fill in a 9-page document and add in an itemised account of what was lost. We had to provide payslips, bank statements, along with credit union accounts, proof of address, and insurance refusal letter. All this without electricity, internet, or access to any IT equipment. Weeks passed, and we were then told that now we had to go and get 2 builder quotes and sign a form to allow an assessor come to our home. Finally, in December, we received a letter that we were being offered 50% of the rebuild cost, but we couldn't access that until the work was done, investigated, and invoices submitted, and that it all had to go through one of the builders that quoted us originally. I contacted the department, thanking them for their offer, but pointed out that it was not feasible. I was then offered a portion up front and advised that the fund was not calculated on the lots, but on the square footage of the property. This was extremely upsetting to hear after spending weeks on my phone trying to gather every detail asked of me while my children watched, thinking Mammy only cares about her mobile phone. The HSE announced mental health support for the adults, but I have not heard any mention of the children. There are close to 40 in our state alone, all equally traumatised, which is compounded by every drop of rain that falls. As a community, we have proposed a simple mitigation plan which would see excess water held in fields and responsibly released across the road to the Dail River when it is safe to do so. I am asking you to look at this as a viable and strong contender to protect the wider community now and not wait the 10-15 years for tranche 2. The landowner agrees, has the expertise to carry out this work, and he also has access to the machinery. But he needs the acknowledgement from the relevant agencies such as OPW and the permission to do it. I am asking you today to intervene for the people of Mogeely and Castlemartyr and save our lives now. I am offering you a value for money proposal, so next time the clean-up doesn't come close to the 55 million that it has today. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Daithi Conway. I'm from Tier 2 in Middleton, the same estate as Caroline. I went to work like any other day on the morning of the 18th of October 2023. I dropped my 2-year-old son to the creche, which is at the beginning of my estate, and my 5-year-old son to school, which is literally across the road from my estate. It was raining heavy, but nothing new there. It had been raining heavy for weeks at this stage, and it was the third warning of rain in the space of a few months. I got a phone call from my panic-stricken wife at 11:20, telling me the water was beginning to come into our beautiful little home that we had spent the past 8 years renovating and had just finished that summer. I luckily was working only 20 minutes away and was thinking, should I stop off on the way and get a few sandbags? I would have needed a pretty big sandbag. When I arrived into the beginning of our estate, just where the creche is, I was met with a wall of water 4 foot deep. I reversed my van out onto the road, but couldn't go back the road I'd come, as the water had come in behind me, and I could go past my estate as the water was in front of me. So the only safe place I could park my van was at the school opposite my estate, where luckily there was a slight incline in the road. So after parking the van, I ran back and started to wade into the dirty water, which came above my waist. Bearing in mind I'm 6'3" tall. At that point I saw my 5'4" petite wife just ahead of me, with the water almost up to her chest, trying to carry my 2-year-old son through the water to our home about 100 metres away. They were actually crossing a current of water so strong that an hour later a car got carried away. When we got to our home, the house was almost 3 foot deep, with all our possessions and kids' toys floating around. When the top of the radiator started to disappear, I wondered, should we start evacuating the house, as I feared for the safety of my family, who were all trapped upstairs. Everything downstairs was destroyed, over 8 years of hard labour gone in 20 minutes. I then, like a lot of families, had to get my son, who was stuck in the school. So back through the water, trying not to trip over curbs, street electric boxes, etc. As you could not see anything from my waist down, I waded back to the school, brought my son home to the door in a kayak. Luckily, some of my neighbours had a rubber dinghy and a kayak, so with the help from other residents of the estate, we battled the dangerous currents and conditions and brought a lot of children home by ourselves. There was no sign of help from anyone of the emergency services or army, even though I had called the fire brigade at 11:25 a.m, but they never came. Now, I'm not one to cry easily, but when I woke up the following morning, I cried for what had happened to my home, but more importantly, the fright I got to have my family in danger like that. It was a miracle nobody died that day. Our beautiful home has now become just a place we reside in. We live in constant fear every time it rains, and it could flood again. We need immediate action with interim measures, and we need a much more speedy response to getting the flood scheme planning in place and possible objections passed through the courts quickly. The safety of our families and homes depends on it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Catherine Power. I'm from Castlemartyr Village in East Cork, situated on the busy N25 between Middleton and Killa, and home to Michelin 2-star Castlemartyr Resort. This is my house here on the first, and this is the N25. So, Castlemartyr Village has experienced repeated flooding in 2009, 2015 and again in 2023. And as householders, we are probably one of the lucky ones to have flood cover, but at what expense? Our home insurance premium since 2015 flood claim has averaged $1,300. Our renewal notice for 2024, which bear in mind is mid-claim, has doubled the premium to $2,600. And when I queried this with our insurance company, I was told rebuilding costs have increased, which I accept, and also because of where you live, which I don't accept. Our house has stood in the same place since the early 1900s, and residents do not own the river that flows through the village of Castlemartyr. We can't interfere with that river in any way, yet the river can break its bank in several places, invade our homes, and residents are left to deal with the aftermath long after the floodwater has receded. Flood cover is now beyond our reach. Our other affected residents will be in a similar position at next renewal. People have also lost their cars in the flood, are already experiencing 120% increase in premiums. No protection measures have been put in place for Castlemartyr. Consequently, our insurance company has us in a corner. They know we have nowhere else to go for insurance cover, and they can charge whatever premium amount they wish. How is this fair on homeowners? Our homes are now worthless through no fault of our own, and we are at the mercy of our insurers. Given the increase in climate change, could our powers in this country look at introducing an insurance scheme for the increasing number of affected citizens, like our near neighbours have in their flood scheme? A joint initiative between the government and insurers, enabling people to access more affordable home insurance. Some of those insurance companies in that scheme are operating in this country. We've been told that the provision of insurance cover is a commercial matter for providers, so once again, homeowners are left on their own to negotiate insurance. Following the 2015 flood, we carried out our own remedial works to our home, reluctantly closed up our front door, installed floodgates at the rear and side of the entrance, we laid new paths, all at our own expense. Unfortunately, it was to no avail, as nothing was going to stop the level of water. Plus, on that day, no emergency services came to Residence 8, continued at speed through the floodwater, further compounding the destruction to our homes. Arctic trucks became stuck and had to back up at the busy junction with the N25. It was mainly, and a severe safety risk to everyone. In 2015, Cork County Council engineers carried out an after-flood survey and submitted an application for mitigation works on the Kilta River. And we've now learned that that application was deemed premature. But yet here we are, flooded again on the 18th of October last. So how is that deemed premature? In light of Storm Babette, another flood assessment has been carried out, and this time even more homes are impacted. We understand Cork County Council have submitted another application to the OPW for funding to carry out remedial works on the river. And will this re-application be successful? And when will the works be carried out? Residents cannot go through another winter, constantly watching river levels, counting the volume of rainfall forecasts, and lifting valuables at short notice. In fact, my neighbour Sam, can't see his house there, but he doesn't go to bed on nights of heavy rainfall. He's actually our human river gauge. Unfortunately for residents, Castlemartyr Village Flood Relief Scheme is not for consideration until Tranche 2, many years away. And though it's only a 1.5 kilometre stretch of river that's causing this devastation, residents cannot understand how the scheme cannot be advanced sooner. There's only a handful of stakeholders involved, and we've been told funding for the scheme is available but cannot be progressed due to the constraints on the availability of professional and specialised engineering skills required. We are at the mercy of the OPW. In the meantime, Minister Pádraig O'Sullivan has said, and he understands our position, he said people cannot be expected to live with the risk of and fear of flooding where an easy solution has been identified and can be easily delivered. These works have been identified for Castlemartyr and are easily deliverable. So why is Castlemartyr, Mogeely and surrounding catchment areas not getting this work done? Why are our villages being overlooked? We are told cost-benefit ratio is one of the criteria assessed, but what cost to people's lives? We are residents of this country, and do you, our elected reps, care? We will be shortly moving back into our home after 4 months of hell. Stuck at the 18th of October and can't get out. What should be a happy event for us is filled with fear. Fear of what the next storm will bring. This is not living. We thank you.
Hello, my name is Adrienne Sheehan and I am living in the woodlands in Middleton. We are living a nightmare. The story of the flooding of the woodlands estate, which was built in 1994, did not start with Storm Babette. As far back as December 2015, there had been unrelenting rainfall for over 2 months. Christmas week, for a full week at least, the Owen Curragh River was flowing aggressively by the Cork Bridge right up to the riverbank. On the evening of the 29th of December at about 9:30 p.m, the river burst its banks and flooded the front row of the estate. In short, we were rescued within an hour of the onset of the emergency service, by the emergency services, who evacuated us, and we got accommodation overnight in the Middleton Park Hotel. My neighbour's house and mine were badly flooded, and it took us almost a year to get our houses back together, between drying out, insurance issues, working with builders, etc. As a consequence of the flooding, we lost both our flood and subsidence insurance. Our houses became worthless. Meanwhile, there were meetings, and more meetings. A group for flood management was formed and a scheme was developed by the FRS, the Flood Relief Scheme, whereby Arab were appointed as project managers. This all happened in 2016. At the very first meeting in early 2016, people asked if there could be interim measures put in place. Various local people with good engineering background put forward practical ideas for immediate measures, but all suggestions were vetoed. At that point, we were given a timeline of 5 years. As part of the FRS scheme, we, Woodlands residents, attended public consultations, and we continued to lobby for interim measures, but to no avail. Having put a suggestion to the FRS team in 2017, I received a reply 6 weeks later which concluded stating, "No commitment can be provided at present. However, as the study is ongoing and hydrological and hydraulic analysis will need to be closed out before optioneering can commence. Regards." In March 2020, at the FRS consultation day, we were informed there was another 5 years in the conclusion of the project. So that means the timeline was now at 2025. Over the last 8 years, my neighbours have also been trying on several fronts to get remedial and preventive flood works done. We've lobbied the County Council, various engineers, politicians, all to no avail. In a nutshell, we've had 2 major flooding events in the Woodlands. In 2015, only 2 houses were seriously flooded, but we lost flood and subsidence insurance as a consequence of that. Over the next 8 years, there were several other almost floodings. In Stromsoe, we were much more seriously affected. This time, the water came up to 20 inches in my house, much more quickly and aggressively. 12 houses were flooded on the front rows, as against 2 in 2015. This time, there was no help or visit from the council, no support, no sandbags. This time, thanks to a good Samaritan and volunteers, we were rescued after 5 hours of being trapped upstairs in our houses. We witnessed uncontrollable flooding of foul water coming through our showers, plumbing outlets, and through the front red brick walls of our houses. This time, the only support we got was from emergency services, the Middleton Hub, volunteers, friends, neighbours and family. The authorities were noted for their absence. On Friday morning, the 20th of October, 2 days after the flooding by Stromsoe, we were woken up by the Gardaí at 7 a.m. in the morning because the banks of the river were bursting. We were totally stressed, exhausted, worn out and demoralised. When my neighbours asked if we could be given sandbags for protection, the Gardaí informed us that they were waiting on them to come from Cork to the council and it would be at least another half an hour. But we had to evacuate our homes. My questions today are, what practical improvements have happened with regard to flood management in Middleton over the last 8 years? Can you help us secure some immediate flood protection measures? How many times are we expected to try to rebuild our lives, our homes, and live in a safe, stable environment? I know I, for one, cannot do this again. I have the energy. I was devastated when we were at the meeting on the 28th of November in the Middleton Park Hotel to be told that we had sandbags in place. Not so on the morning of the 20th when we were being evacuated from our houses. We were also told that the drains had been cleared, not in our estate. Meanwhile, we on the front rows of the Woodlands are on constant alert for the rising river levels if there is rainfall, leading to a very stressful life. We are living a nightmare and we should not have to do this again. We are asking you to get us interim flood protection measures as a matter of urgency. Thank you.
Do we still have 5 minutes?
Yeah, we can keep going. Is there another speaker?
Oh, yes. So we have the room and we have to. I was just.
Okay, very good. Okay, is there another speaker? There is, yeah.
I'm the last speaker, and then she'll be doing the closing.
Very good.
Thank you.
No worries.
Members of the Dail, we stand before you today not merely as a few voices, but as representatives of countless lives profoundly impacted by decades of recurring flooding. While official statistics may downplay the event of devastation, the truth is far worse. The toll is measured not just in numbers, but in shattered homes, shattered dreams, and shattered lives. A strong reminder of the price of inaction. In the face of such adversity, life persists. Mothers continue to nurture their families. Children still require safe passage to and from schools, and fathers find themselves grappling with a labyrinth of bureaucratic red tape. As you hear today, 4 months past the flooding, some of us still cannot return to their homes safely. Today, we embody the collective voice of communities unjustly thrown into harm's way. Consider, if you will, the unimaginable situation that the elderly members of our community went through when facing neck-deep raging waters filling up their homes. Some of them in wheelchairs, some of them with walkers, fortunate enough to have received immediate help from their neighbors. Picture the anxiety of waking up to find your home submerged. As Caroline mentioned, the very essence of safety and security, now a distant memory for many of us. And let us not forget the silent victims, the pets lost to the merciless currents. I do wish those once annoying barks would sound again across the neighborhood, but they're not, because they're gone forever. For those of us blessed with children, the thought of their vulnerability in the face of nature's fury is a chilling reality. None among us can truly comprehend the fear of witnessing our loved ones in danger by forces beyond our control. Yet, for an entire town, this nightmare became all too real, another strong reminder of our collective vulnerability. Even if you yourself have been spared the floodwaters, rest assured that someone you know has not been so fortunate. And if you insist you do not know anyone like that, just look at us. You just met someone today. Whether in 2023, 2015, or way before that, such devastation has haunted countless communities regularly throughout the past decades. To me, this looks like an avoidable pattern. As you gaze upon these faces, recognize that each one represents a story of loss, a story of resilience, and most important, a story of hope. We haven't traveled here today to play the blame game. Let this be very clear. Rather, we come seeking solutions, a reprieve from the cycle of despair that has gripped our communities for far too long. We are wary of excuses, tired of empty promises, and desperate for meaningful action. It is abundantly clear that the current system is failing us. Insurance companies offer little help, and government funds, while allocated for our protection, have yet to materialize in any meaningful way. The events of October 2023 may have faded in the public consciousness. However, for us, the scars remain fresh, a constant reminder of lacking safety. We are ordinary citizens, united in purpose and determined to effect change. We stand before you today not as adversaries, but as partners in progress, eager to bridge the disconnection between governments and communities. Let's prioritize accountability for the safety and well-being of our families as we stand here today, ready to collaborate for the implementation of interim measures. Today, you have the opportunity to lead by example, because together we can set an example that truly helps the ones in need. Are we in agreement? Thank you. Now, before the closing thoughts, sir, before you leave, a lot of words fell today about the raging waters, and these pictures do not show the power that some of us faced. So please have a look of what we recorded on the day. Imagine if a toddler would have been caught by those waters. Imagine this. Can you see that? That is devastating. And I have a last one. The wall you see behind there was meant to protect Adrienne's estate from flooding, and look what happened. And that's why we cannot wait. We need to implement interim measures. Thank you.
So today you've seen the devastation that was caused in our community. There are 15 of us here today, but we are representing the community of East Cork. These are only some of the stories. There are thousands more. As Radu mentioned, there are 15 of us here, but we have petitions with names of 15,000 people that are supporting this. We need interim measures immediately. Everything that was mentioned today, we need addressed, and that's only some of the issues. A lot of them are short-term measures that can be addressed now and can have a huge impact on protecting us from future flooding. Interim measures can be completed immediately, and they've been identified and communicated to Cork County Council yesterday. We can provide a summary of these if you require them, and they could all be done with the will and the manpower within the next 6, 9 and 12 months. So I don't mean wait until 12 months, I mean some can be done in the next 6 months, some in the next quarter, others in the final quarter. And they will have a huge impact on protecting our community. We need your support in that. Ministers came to Middleton and promised us that we would not have to suffer any more than we did. Those promises have been unfulfilled. Maybe they're unaware of the ongoing situation. We need them to be aware of it. Please let them know we are suffering. We expect our government to help us and to protect us and to keep us safe. And at the moment, we feel that's not happening. One example that I would like to give, and there are several, but I don't want to take up too much time. Flood barriers for homeowners and businesses. These are provided by other councils. It has happened in other parts of the country, but they have to be approved by Cork County Council. At the moment, we can't access those. They would give huge help to some of the homeowners, and they shouldn't be means tested. There was a suggestion recently that it should be done, but it should be means tested. This should not be the case. They should be provided. Thank you for giving us your time. We really appreciate it. I'm going to hand over. Peadar, can I give them to you?
Yeah, that's no bother at all.
Thank you so much.
No worries.
Thanks for listening to us.
Not at all. Thank you very much.
Oh yes, please.
Good stuff. Well, first of all, just again to thank your campaign group for your efforts. It's incredible that no warning systems in place, no emergency services at the time, funding, bureaucracy in terms of applications, and then the changing of the goalposts, and then the amounts being 50% of what's needed. I think it's incredible that such a life and death situation has not been taken more seriously. And I will say that it's only through your personal communication on this issue that really the human side of this is understood by TDs, because we see it on the news and we see it on the television shows, but obviously the bravery of your own presentations here today shows the human devastation that this has caused. I personally think there's a practicality deficit in relation to this. There's a bureaucratic system that is dragging every single action and decision out to the last, and that has to change. We need to absolutely be practical in relation to this. And I might just open it up to questions if TDs want to ask questions there. Go on ahead.
Thanks, Peadar. Look, first and foremost, I want to welcome all of you here and thank you for taking the time to come up from East Cork. It's a long journey, and for the contributions you've made today as well. We've listened to it. I certainly have. And when it comes to the request overall about rapid, urgent interim action, I just want to assure you, Mona and your colleagues, all of you here today, that that's something that we very much have been trying to do everything we can with the local authorities since this happened in October. And look, our ultimate fear is that something happens again. It really is. The scale of the destruction, all of us know, has been enormous. It's affected everywhere from Deputy O'Sullivan's constituency in Glanmire right down into West Waterford. And I don't need to add to the comments that we made here about the contributions about how much of an impact that has had. But I just want to say we bring the information that you've raised with myself and my other Oireachtas colleagues here to that of Cabinet. I'd be very, very pleased to bring a copy of the petition as well, and also to work with you on the list of suggestions to Cork County Council on interim solutions. The bureaucratic barriers we come up against as public representatives are enormous. Having to wait several weeks, indeed months, for meetings with officials can be incredibly frustrating. But I just want to be absolutely clear with all of you. We've been requesting these, stressing the enormous urgency, stressing the discomfort, the pain that people have gone through. And it is disappointing to hear that some of the people that have gone through the system for funding to come through different relief funds have been coming up against such huge barriers in getting that money, and then not getting the amount that they would have originally expected. At each individual case, please bring it to our attention. We've been helping with some constituency cases as well. We're all ears in terms of what we can do to help with the relevant funds that are available. Also, on an ongoing basis, I'm very happy to visit individual homes, households, to continue to engage with community groups as well. And when it comes to the major projects, which we do know we will have to wait because of the planning process in this country around the Middleton Flood Relief Scheme, we are trying to push with the OPW. I know Deputy Stanton was present with me for the meeting we had with Cork County Council recently, and trying to use the arms of the state that are available, like the Arterial Drainage Act and other mechanisms, to ensure that this is done as urgently as possible for that long-term solution in the Middleton town. However, it is worth referencing that the point has been made very well today about Castlemartyr, about other projects in Moheely as well, where there doesn't seem to be the same level of urgency there. And that's something that we are going to work to address. I do have huge concerns about it. I know we were down on the ground, we walked the river channel in Kilta, and also the other thing that came up was raised in committee only last week with Transport Infrastructure Ireland around the drainage systems around the N55 between Killa and Castlemartyr, and the potential impact that may have as well on groundwater in the Moheely area. I'm conscious of that, to try and get the drains stuck that were not funded previously when they were last doing those works. They were not completed, so we're working on that as well to ensure that's been done. So look, I just want to reassure you once more that if there's things that you'd like being raised here, whether it's through your local TDs, all four of us are more than happy to help, and we want to, and I certainly want to, or indeed through Peadar, we will certainly raise it at our office level through any facility that we have here. So thank you very much for your time, and unfortunately I've actually got another meeting at 2 o'clock, so Peadar, would you please excuse me, and I'm sorry. I'll be around, and hopefully be around later on, so we'll run to one another again, okay? Thanks very much.
Just to say that we're joined by Deputy Pádraig O'Sullivan and Dave Staunton and Deputy Jonathan Valera in as well. So I know Pat Buckley wants to ask a question too.
No, it's not more questions. I just want to say, look, number one, it's not easy to come up here as a group, but I think the human impact of it, those stories have to be told. I'm born and bred, and I've seen flooding before, but nothing like this one. I know what you're saying about excuses and stuff. I am glad to hear, because I wasn't aware that some people were having problems with their grants and so on and so forth. Yeah. You mentioned also they did try them on the main street and down Thomas Street, those flood barriers. But the problem is now we didn't know that they were roughly for about 2.5 foot of water. I mean, you had nearly 8 foot of water down Thomas Street. So I mean, that they are the interim measures, probably the first of the interim measures. But no, he's my school teacher one time, he's my school teacher. But no, and James will not. We try not to play party politics when it comes to local issues, right? And that's straight out. You'll be well aware of many sea farm studies that have been done here and stuff, predictabilities that were predicted and it did come true. So I think there has to be straight talking as well when you're dealing with councils. And I mean, if we can facilitate you, I think the more interaction, and I like what Mona said about, this is not a blame game, because a lot of this is very unprecedented, plus the fact emergency services were not prepared for it because they were absolutely and utterly stretched. And I'm well aware that people out in Mogeely, Castlemartin and other areas felt that they wouldn't even, we'll say, on the priority list, because everything seemed to be, even the media seemed to be channeling on Middleton as the town. But as I said, everything was stretched and people couldn't get to places anyway, right? But as I said, and I do sit on the petitions committee. There is a petitions committee here in Dail. I suppose, and this is not a sarcastic way, but one signature will get you into the petitions committee. But it is a very strong, all politics but no politics played in that committee, because it's lastchance.com for an individuals or groups to actually raise concerns about what it is. So it's a very powerful one. I've raised it a number of times. Actually, the Thursday evening after the flooding hit, I actually raised it in a topical issue here. But recently with Pádraig O'Sullivan, I had a good debate with him on a topical issue, on a follow-up after this flooding incident. And he did assure me that the money is there. So at least that's a start. Definitely to work with Cork County councils, and a lot of you referenced red tape, and that has to go. Unfortunately, common sense is kind of scarcely up here. I knew it was very bad. We're listening to more of you as witnesses today, and the long-term devastation that it carries. And a lot of you mentioned there was no services within the health services or mental health services or anything, which is very, very worrying as well. But as I said, look, we all have an open door, and it's not about playing politics in this. It's just, and I'd say it's a miracle there was absolutely nobody drowned in this. And the speed that it happened, like, it's totally unpredictable. And I know there's a lot of crap going on and here is, and you'd know it up beyond Willowbank up by Moore's Bridge, because you have a private bridge and a private road, and they were very fast to get with a letter in there when the road was closed and the place was flooded, to indemnify themselves, instead of doing the common sense thing and saying, right, let's take the bridge out the river, now it's an obstruction, and we'll deal with the red tape after. And I'm known for straight talking, and I don't like to mess around, but I'll also give credit where credit's due. I did write to Minister O'Donovan, put him to his pigeonhole here. They did go down and remove the trees by Moore's Bridge within 5 days. I know they're just tiny little bits, but always give credit where credit's due as well, because as I said, this is the competition between policies. It's a huge job. We're surrounded by water, the whole area. We've underground caves, it's bonkers scenario. But what I would say to you is, please work with every one of us. Do not play politics with it, because you'll splinter yourselves as well, and you'll fall apart. And there's no such thing as a stupid question here, it's the stupid response is what's the worrying thing. But if we can work with you anyway, I mean, our doors are open. Well, mine is only open since last Monday because I was flooded as well. So I know what it's like. You're talking about family homes. Mine was an office and it was a show. But as I said to the landlord, I said, there's a creche there, there's families. I said, we can work from home, we're fine. But as I said, I listened to you. I mean, it's not a home, not a house in bricks and mortar, it's home. And that's what's forgotten about here. So as I said, look, whatever we can do, and thanks, Madam, for bringing you up as well. And I know you've got plenty of media, so you're all going to be famous tonight on television. And it'll be the first time you watch 3 newses in one day.
For one night.
For one night. I know that will keep going. So no, I just, as I said, congratulate you, but please stick together and try and keep us all in the loop so we can work together and try and push it from there, because something has to be done before somebody is killed. So thank you. Thank you,
Sorry, I have no question really, it's just a comment really. Sorry, there's Dail, first of all, I just got to Dail away from Cork. Obviously, I'm not in the East Cork constituency, but I'm from Little Island, kind of Clontarf parish area, so very close to what happened. And I suppose I know a lot of business owners on Main Street. I know I have cousins in Middleton. I know many people that were affected in different ways. I suppose when you compare what happened to yourselves in the wider East Cork area to, I suppose, the area in Glanmire or Clowntown that was affected in my own constituency, you're talking maybe 30 or 40 houses to, I believe it's 500 plus houses in your area, so obviously it's a different scale altogether. I suppose I've had mixed fortunes with dealing with applications of people. Like initially the response was very good, the first stage, and the second stage for white goods, that kind of, well, to my mind, in the Glanmire area, and I can't speak for you, people were reasonably satisfied with that. The hiccup seems to be, the major problem seems to be the third stage, the final stage of getting builders' quotes. I do still have a few families in difficulties in Glanmire area with that side of things, but we're trying to progress them on an individual basis, because a lot of it just depends on the individual damage that was done to a property, or whatever the case may be. The Middleton flood scheme, I think James touched it there a while ago. Like, for a lot of these projects, you're talking many years. We had the benefit in Glanmire, the flood scheme actually started. It's still 2 years ready to be completed, but at least it has started. So that gives us some comfort going into the future. You don't have that comfort. And could answer this with his experience, that there is a minor flood scheme there, minor flood work scheme. I think it's up to 750,000 euros a year. Or sorry, 750,000 euros a scheme. And in the interim, is that something that the council should look at? I know the applications have to be approved by the OPW, but if there's a number of smaller schemes that could be done in preparation for the wider scheme, maybe that's something that you need to press hard for. So look, I'm there to help. I'm not from the constituency, but I do know a lot of people. I have family there, and if I can help anyway, I'm happy to do so as well.
Can I just make a suggestion on the humanitarian aid fund? There are a lot of people, and maybe they haven't contacted you yet, but the whole system should be reviewed. That people in that situation have to fill in these forms, get builders' estimates, have photographs and videos of what's gone on. The whole thing should be reviewed. And I spoke to the community welfare officers myself. I didn't need that money, but I was trying to help people who were filling in the forms. And I was told, yes, it was means tested, but if a couple, for example, earned under 90 or up to 90,000, then the full amount would be available to them. But that hasn't turned out to be the case. The whole thing needs to be reviewed and changed.
Can I just suggest maybe would it be possible to get a meeting with maybe a Zoom meeting even between members of the campaign, Minister Pádraig O'Sullivan, a senior person within the Department of Social Welfare, and Cork County Council, because there's a number of different stools that this is falling through, and I think if we had all of these stakeholders that were involved or should be involved in this in a particular room listening directly to the campaign itself, we might be able to iron out some of these issues as well. Maybe would that be possible? Maybe if the government TDs might have more access to see if that meeting could be arranged. There's no end of challenges here. Like, I'm not being political when I say this. There is no end of challenges. I do understand that. But what I'm saying, if we can at least get a meeting organised to see, can we create the pressure and the will if necessary?
The early warning, while I appreciate it happened very fast, we've spoken to business owners at the other end of the town to where Clune is, who were aware by 9:30 the town was flooding, and we didn't have water in our house until 11:30. We were oblivious. We were walking about getting coffee, as something as simple as a man with a megaphone, just telling people we're flooding. It's that basic.
Could it have predicted it? Because I raised that monitoring of the rivers and stuff, that was a pilot scheme back in 2016 that they were trialling, and I did get angry on it, but those monitors are there now. But it's like what you just said there, it's about to and fro conversation. We don't know everything, you don't know everything, but together we can put it all together, resources. But that early warning, but that's just that early warning system.
Thank you, Peadar.
We now don't know that's tied into telephones, but it is perfect an idea, and it's another good idea.
Peadar and committee, I'm not fully happy with all we are hearing here as reaction. The reason we are here today in the Dail and not in County Hall is because the County Council is not the beginning and the end of all our solutions or potential solutions. The Cork County Council and any other county council can provide a major funding here unless it comes from central government, right? So talking to people who then have to go seeking to know if they'll get funds, if budget will be allocated to them. We're coming here. And the other aspect is, I'm not happy about, is that we're not about finger pointing. I've heard this expression so much in the last 6 months from political sources. I'm not impressed by it, Things are not right. And if we don't look at them square in the face, they'll never become right. This has happened before. We're 8 years between one flood and the other. And there was nothing, not one thing, happened on the ground materially between the two events. And so, if we're not to do finger pointing, what are we going to do? Well, go around in a circle? One of the major issues is that nobody has a sense of what an emergency is. When you have a road accident and the ambulance arrives and the paramedics come, they don't ask, have you private insurance? Well, gee, your leg is hanging off there, but I can't do anything for you, and they walk away. Or go to your doctor, he'll get your appointment in 2 years' time. They don't do that. The fire brigade doesn't wheel up to your house and say, is this house insured? And if it is so, we'll roll up our hoses and go away. The fella in Youghal going out on a paddleboard to save somebody drowning, he doesn't start asking questions. They are emergency services and they operate to emergency. The concept of an emergency service does not exist across departments, like the Department of Social Welfare. It doesn't exist. Like what do people have to go through to get flooded? People in a desperate situation, they're destitute, they're stressed, they've lost everything, they've lost their homes, and they're put through a milli of questions, etc. And have you insurance? What's your income level? How many kids have you? Etc. It is outrageous. It's third world stuff. That's been there. It's been there for years. And all of you are sitting here, deputies, you're sitting here presiding over such a system for a long, long time now. And you're presiding over something that's utterly unfit for purpose. That you have to, if the ambulance men wouldn't ask you have you insurance and then go away if you have it, but who is doing that? The Department of Social Welfare does that. And the re-raw you have to get through is one thing if you were applying for, say, a medical card or something, and it takes months and months. But that process isn't even fit for what I call peacetime services, peacetime events, let alone wartime, which is the flood of Middleton and the flood of East Cork. And these things recur. And 8 years' time, will we be any better than we were 8 years ago? So there must be a shift in when there's an urgency, that it's declared an urgency, it's declared a disaster, and they whip into mode and they start people out. You can see the videos, you can see which houses are damaged, and give them the funds, give them what they need, and give it now. Yeah. And it's an insult to them to have to go through the humiliating and the stressful period of months and months. Here we are 4 months after the flood, and almost nothing is resolved. you know. So, guys, you are presiding over what the Department of Welfare, through its humanitarian funds, imposes on people who are desperate, who are desolate, who have been destroyed. You got to change it, guys.
Well, listen, thank you very much for that, Joan. And you know, I do take the point that this is not a political issue, and I don't want it to be a political issue. But it is political decisions that have led to the situation that we're in at the moment. And it will take political decisions to resolve these. And there can't be any more excuses in terms of any of these political decisions. This issue is far too serious for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to contact those organisations myself and see can we organise a meeting between those organisations with yourselves as soon as possible, and we'll put as much pressure, and all the TDs here, if we can raise it in the Dáil, keep raising it in the Dáil as regularly as I understand, but see, look, there is an issue in when Bord Pleanála, there's 22,000 planning applications stuck in Bord Pleanála at the moment because they don't have the planners to be able to deliver on them, and one of the reasons why cases are stuck in court so long is because the courts are not resourced enough to be able to process it faster. So, you know, these are issues that we can influence to a certain extent in here. So listen, Mila Mahogif, Arisha Chok,